This is a picture of Celia Mortimer, who was studying fashion at Liverpool College of Art and was in late 1962 Paul McCartney's girlfriend. This is a picture of Paul, George and Ivan Vaughan. Ivan Vaughan is the crucial man in the Beatles story. He was a friend of Paul's from school and a friend of John's because he was a near neighbour in Walton. And without Ivan, Lennon may never have met McCartney. He was the young lad who introduced them in 1957. Ivan was a very bright lad, and when he graduated from school, he went to the University of London. And in October 1962, the Beatles had a couple of days off, and Paul said to his girlfriend Celia, "Let's hitchhike down to London to see Ivan. I hear he's got a job in the evenings to make some money at the Establishment Club," the club that Peter Cook opened, London's first satire club on Greek Street. So down they go, hitchhiking their way down to London. They arrive quite late at night. They've just missed the cabaret, which starred John Bird and John Fortune and Eleanor Bron. Eleanor Bron, who of course would go on to appear with the Beatles in Help. But they dance through the night, Paul and Celia to the band, and eventually Ivan says, "Come on, the club's closing. Let's go back to my place and you can crash on my floor." So when Celia told me this story, I said to her, "Can you remember where you stayed the night?" And she said, "I think it was on Great Portland Street." Well, Great Portland Street to me, when I was researching Tune In, was already important because another important family had lived there. So I said, "Do you remember where it was?" "No, I don't remember." So I got in touch with Ivan's widow because Ivan had died. Whereabouts was Ivan staying when he was a student? "Up the top end of Great Portland Street, but I don't remember the number," she said. So I thought, okay, look at the electoral roll. And Ivan thankfully had registered to vote. Charles Ivan Vaughan, living in Seaford Court, up the top end of Great Portland Street near the Marylebone Road. Exactly the same building that was already in my head because the Asher family had lived there. What an extraordinary thing. Paul McCartney would be going to live with the Ashers in 1963 in Wimpole Street, but here he was in the building where they had lived until they moved there. This is where Jane on the right and Peter on the left, both child actors, had grown up, and also where George Martin had come for oboe lessons. So Paul could have been anywhere in London that night, but he was in the very building with the Ashers and George Martin had been, which was quite an extraordinary coincidence. Well, the next day, Paul and Celia went for a walk. They went round the back of Great Portland Street to Fitzroy Square, where they could observe the construction of a symbolic landmark for London in the 1960s, the Post Office Tower. And while they're there, Paul is finishing the lyrics to a new song he's written called "I Saw Her Standing There." And Celia is sure that the line, "We danced through the night and we held each other tight," relates to them just a few hours earlier dancing together late into the small hours at the Establishment Club in Soho. The remarkable thing also is that for Celia, this is a standout memory in her young life that she was very pleased to be able to tell me. But for Paul, who's had a lifetime of extraordinary moments and who later released an album called Memory Almost Full, this is an anecdote and a particular memory that seems to have slipped his mind.